Welcome back to the Author to Authority podcast. And today is a continuation of a wonderful interview that I was doing with Tony Ning on how you can use real estate to build wealth. So this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, make sure you go back to www.authortoauthority.com/podcast, and you'll easily find it there, or you can scroll back on your favorite podcast app and you'll find it there as well. So I hope you enjoyed the continuation of this incredible interview that I did.
Yeah, take your money and make it work for you, right? That's what the rich do. The rich, I mean, if you look at the rich people, they really don't work that hard anymore, right? No. They make the money work. They use the money to work, right? They're buying other companies, they're buying other investment vehicles, and that's what they do, right? So do what they do, right?
That's right.
You go to the bank manager's not, the banker's not working that hard, right? They're working like 10 to 3 o'clock. They don't work that hard. Whereas you and I are working a lot harder, right? Because they're using their money. What are the banks doing? They're lending you the money and making an interest on the money, right? So they're getting cash flow. That's what they're doing, right? So you have to learn from them,
Exactly.
Do what they do. Don't do what they want you to do, because they want you to be the borrower, right?
Mm-hmm.
You rather be the lender. And another example is like you could even take your money at 3% refinanced, okay, and you could put it into a lot of safe funds, like real estate trust funds, right, where you can make 8, 10, 12%, right, and then you make the difference. That's exactly what the banks do, right? They borrow their money at 1% and they lend to you 3%. They make a spread of 2%. They do it over millions of people, and they're making billions every quarter.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So before we get to talking about your book, I do want to talk about one more topic, because I think you probably have an incredible amount of knowledge in this. So let's just take a look at it from the general homeowner, because many times people are looking to either buy their first home or they're looking to buy another home. When they're actually going to look at houses, what is it that they should be looking for? So either, neighborhood, geographic, or even when they physically visit the house, like what are some things that are kind of warning signs that this might not be the great investment that it looks like?
Right. Well, like I said, first of all, you have to know your strategy. Are you buying to live in? Are you buying to sell it short term for a profit? Are you looking to buy it for cash flow in the long run?
Well, let's say they're looking to live in it.
Okay. So to live in it, you want a nice neighborhood, right? You want everybody's different. Some people like to be in the rural area. Some people prefer to be in the urban centers. Some of the things that you should look at in terms of cost of repairs is things like roofing, structural. If there's any leaks in the basement, you want to look for any signs of maybe the flooring being slanted. Maybe the structure is giving uncertain. But for a normal person, they really don't know a lot of the details of the home. So I highly recommend. In fact, none of my customers, buyers, clients will ever buy a home without doing a home inspection. Right? You have to hire a professional home inspector to give you, basically a snapshot or X-ray of what the home is. Things like heating. What kind of heating is it? Is it the baseboard heating, electric baseboard heating? Is it gas furnace heating? Right? All those things make a difference. Does it have a finished basement? Does it have an unfinished basement? How many bedrooms? I highly recommend, personally, to stay with the norm. Minimum 3 bedrooms, minimum 2 bathrooms, right? You can buy 2-bedroom homes, right? But they're much harder to sell, right? 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms it's what everybody's looking for.
Okay, yep.
That's where the masses are, right? And you want to buy in the neighborhood that is fairly easy to resell, okay? If you drive down the street and all you see is sale signs, you don't see any sold signs, that's not a good sign.
It's funny you say that, because like I don't even live in like my town area. I live a half an hour out. I'm very rural in the middle of cottage country.
Sure. Yeah.
But the road I drive into town, there's this one house.
Okay.
And it's beautiful looking from the outside.
Sure.
I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't want it because it's kind of like on a really strange curve, like it would be hard getting in and out of.
Yeah.
But every 2 to 3 years, that house has been for sale since
Really?
it's been built. And
Wow.
I keep thinking,
is it haunted?
I keep thinking it looks really great from the outside, but what is going on with this place that it's consistently being sold every 2 to 3 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing is I wouldn't buy the cheapest house on the street. Unless you know what you're doing. You have to know what you're doing. The cheapest house, it could be for, a divorce, it could be an estate sale. It could be many factors that cause it to be a lower price. But if it's cheap because whatever is, there could be stigmatism to it. I think I said it right. You're a book writer. Help me with the words. Stigma is it?
If it's got a bad reputation.
Somebody might have passed away. There could have been a murder in the house. Things like that. It could have been used for a grow up where people were growing marijuana. Things like that, right? That you don't know about, right? So, and the worst thing you could do, in my opinion, is to buy the most expensive home on the street.
Oh, okay.
Because the most expensive homes pull the prices up on the less expensive homes. And the less expensive homes pull the expensive home down. I'll give you an example. Let's say on the street, most of the homes are selling for $500,000. Okay. And then there's one home that's sells for $1.5 million. Okay. If you buy the $1.5 million and you want to sell it to other buyers in the future, in the $1.5 million buying range, they may not want to live in that neighborhood. Right? They probably prefer to live in the neighborhood with all the other homes at $1.5 million. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Is it? I hate to bring this up, but the reality is there is a class discrimination. If that makes sense, right?
Yes.
People that live in $2 million homes don't want to live next door to someone that's $300,000. Right? I'm sorry. That's the truth.
It's the
That's
truth.
the truth, right? So you don't want to buy the most expensive home. You don't want to buy the cheapest home. You want to try and figure something in the middle. I think that's what a safe spot is. Unless you know the reason why that person's selling for less money than they would have gotten on a if it was marketed properly.
Yeah, like for a fact that the older lady that died there, it lived there, just passed away. And
if you're okay with that, right? Some people are not. Some people are not okay with that. There was a house that was listed in Toronto quite a few years ago, and it was backing right onto the cemetery. In fact, when we were showing the house, we went into one of the bedrooms in the back of the home, and they were actually doing a ceremony.
Oh.
And you could hear every word they were saying. That's how close it was. I mean, right past the backyard fence, right? And you know what? Here's the thing, Kim. You just don't know people because the person I showed it to loved it. They loved the house. They didn't care. They said, "Hey, I have no neighbors in the backyard other than, I guess you do if you
It would definitely be quiet."
That's what they said too. Yeah. So you just don't know, right? I mean, buying homes where they have train tracks in the back. I mean, go to a neighborhood where they have train tracks in the back. You know what? You'll find people living there. Some people just don't care, right?
Well, it's funny having grown up in Toronto and now living out here.
Yeah.
And growing up in Toronto, I backed onto the 427 right by the airport. So constant background noise. And and planes always going overhead, and you'd hear police and fire trucks and all this kind of stuff.
I know.
And when I first lived out here, I had a hard time sometimes because it was so quiet. But I mean, I've been up here almost 30 years now. But it's funny. I go back to the city, and sometimes like I go down to Toronto with some friends that live up here. Never lived in the city. And we're in a hotel room, and I'm out like a light, and they can't sleep because of the noise. And all I'm thinking is, man, this is like home. Like it it still doesn't bother me. Like you
Right,
know, you
right.
hear the ambulance and all that, you just tune it
Sure,
all out and
sure.
the planes go overhead and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, background noise.
You see, some people like the noise. They like the planes going overhead. They like the traffic in the backyard, and others don't, right? So it's pretty much individual. You know, another funny story was I was showing some condos in Mississauga. I don't know if you know Port Credit. There's a GO station there, right?
Yeah. I don't know the area well, but I know where you're
Here
talking about.
around here, Ontario and Dundas. Okay, so I have
Okay,
this
yep.
client. I want to buy where I can walk to the go station, go train station, right? But I don't want to hear the trains. I don't want to hear any trains passing by, but I want to be close enough where I can walk to go train station. I said, how does that work? I'm not a magician. You know, I can't find you a property, a home that you can walk to the go station and you don't hear the trains going by. It's, you know, anyways, the logic kind of defied me there. So I you know, but
Well,
then
maybe if they were willing to walk 15, 20 minutes, you
no,
probably could.
they want like quick, you know,
Quick.
like quick walk, right? So what I'm trying to say to you is like some people want things and they don't really consider whether it makes sense or not, right? And you know, and everybody's different. That's what I'm trying to say. Everybody's different. Some people don't mind living behind where train tracks go by, and some people do, right? So the point I'm trying to make is if you're willing to buy a home that backs on a train and you want to sell it one day, expect less people interested, right? Expect if you're going to buy a 1-bedroom house and you want to sell it one day, expect less people interested, right?
So that's a really interesting point to make, is that when you're looking to buy your home,
Yes.
you also have to take into consideration of when you're planning on selling that place.
Obviously, unless you're not planning to sell it, then that's fine. But if you plan to sell, you should you should have that in the back of your mind because that's your appreciation, right? So if you buy a home, some areas don't appreciate, right? Let's say you bought a home for 500,000, and 40 years from now is still 500,000, right? Maybe not so much in Ontario, but in the USA, there's a lot of areas where they don't appreciate at all. In fact, some of them depreciate. It's worth less because because people are moving out of that area, right? They don't want to live there anymore, right?
That's true.
Okay. So your appreciation, believe it or not, is based heavily on population growth.
Yes.
Right? That's your demand, right? Population growth, jobs availability, right? Economics, things like that, right?
Like I know right now the area I live in is experiencing quite a bit of growth because it's still close enough to Toronto and the GTA that you know people can commute or whatever, and do things they need to do in the city, but they want to get out of living in the city. So you know my area is one of those. It's not the biggest key growth area, but it is one of the growth areas that's experiencing.
Well, if you look at high appreciating areas, it's because of population growth and jobs. And another really important factor is transportation, right?
Yes.
So Barrie got a boom because 400 and GO train went up there.
Yes.
Massive boom. Okay. Right now, Niagara Falls just got the GO train started. Okay. That's going to boom. Okay. So you follow that. Wherever there's a GO train, transportation, highways, okay, it's gonna service an area that can service an area that allows people to commute to major centers. That area is going to grow. Right. And Midland, you're growing in Midland because there's a lot of retirement people that want to retire in a nice, quiet area where they can fall asleep right away. They don't have to hear the airplanes and the cars going by, right? I'm one of them.
We're getting a lot of families too, because a lot of families just don't want to raise their kids in the city.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Yeah. And Midland's a great place. I have a friend that lives up there. You know, it's a great place. They do maple syrup. They're maple syrup producer. So I think that's, you know, I think they're the #1 maple syrup producer up there.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll find out. Yeah.
I got to connect because we got to get some maple syrup. We're down to our last.
Are you serious?
Our last jar.
I'll hook you up.
We always between here and Barrie, they have like the big maple syrup festival every year. So we always we don't want to actually do the festival. We just want the maple syrup. So it
Yeah.
opens about 8 o'clock in the morning. So we
Right.
get up really early. We get in the car. And this is a small little town, so parking becomes a massive issue. So
Okay.
we know where it kind of begins. So
Sure.
we park
Sure.
just outside of that. We walk in, we find the first maple syrup vendor, buy
Right.
our syrup, leave before the crowd show up.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'll hook you up. She's a good friend of mine. I'm sure you'll enjoy
Awesome. That would
the
even be
products I
better.
produce. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're actually probably going to have to split this episode into two because we've been having such a
Sure.
great conversation. But
Okay.
I do want to talk about your book.
Okay.
So
Sure.
you've been thinking about this for a long time,
A long
haven't you?
time. Yes. Just to give you a little bit of a background, I've been a songwriter all my life, and a couple of years ago I wrote a script for a screenplay as well. So I am a writer. Let's put it that
Nice.
way. And I like to write. And writing this book is for me, it's just spreading the word about my real estate mastery,
Mm-hmm.
and and branding myself as an authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe I am, and I hope that people that listen to me will agree that I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of experience, and I can help them. I can share that with them, and I have the humanity in me because of my bringing up my background
Mm-hmm.
to want to give back. Right?
Yes.
This is not about money for me. This is not about money. This is about doing something good for my community, doing something good for for fellow human beings. And that's where I'm coming from. That's the space I'm coming from. And I really want to be able to perpetuate my message out there to give people the real honest truth about
Mm-hmm.
buying real estate, buying investment properties, how to make money, how to, why real estate is so good for you, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand. They're buying stocks, they're buying mutual funds, and really buying real estate in the long run is a much better vehicle to build wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you talk about giving back because so many potential clients I talk to think that they actually are going to make money from the sales of their book.
Right.
And
No.
it's not the case.
No.
I'm not
Absolutely not.
saying you don't make any money
Yeah.
from the sales of your book. I mean,
Sure. Sure.
obviously you do, but you're not going to write just one book, not do
Sure.
any marketing, not do any
Right.
advertising, and expect thousands upon
Sure.
thousands of
Sure.
dollars to come in.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that's just not the case. So, when I talk to my clients about their book, it's not about the book sales. It's
Right.
about the value that they put in the book.
Absolutely.
That positioning of that expert, showing their expertise, and then
Right.
using that book, to give back. But as they give back, they also receive, because then people
Absolutely.
see them differently.
Sure. Sure.
If you're looking to get on bigger stages,
Yes.
the reality is that to get on the big stages, you have to be an author. It's a prerequisite.
Absolutely.
Every major event person wants
Yes.
authors on their stage.
Right.
So, it becomes that tool. But I love the books that I've done, and I'm excited about working with you on yours, because I
Thank you.
know that these people have given out of their heart. They're given out of their knowledge. They don't
Yes.
hold back in these books. They share
Right.
the good stuff
Sure.
that people
Sure.
can use.
Right. I just want to share with you what makes me different than some of the other real estate mentors
Mm-hmm.
is that I have designed a software. I should mention that at one time I was also a computer programmer as well.
Okay.
Uh, there's that was something that interests me highly. Make a long story short, I designed a software where I can analyze a property, investment property primarily, within seconds. Within seconds, by entering a few numbers like the price, the down payment amount, the interest rates, how much income can I anticipate from this property? By just entering a few numbers, right? I can have a green or a red number at the bottom that tells me to go ahead and investigate further, or to just
Mm.
walk away and don't bother, right? And also
Wow.
gives me all the ratios, all the percentages, right? There's one term that I coined. I haven't heard anybody talk about it. It's called what I call equity uh, ROI, or equity rate of return.
Mhm.
Basically, what that means is that we talked about equity earlier. Your principal, as it builds up over the years, right? what percentage is it? On 400,000, I know right off the bat it's about 11%. But if you amortize,
Mm.
if you work it over 5 years, right? It
Yeah.
actually averages out to 12% because your principal actually grows every month as your
Mm.
interest declines every month. I know it's getting a little bit heady, a little bit, but my point is that I can make it simple for a
Mm.
person to analyze a property, to know, Tony, I got some green arrows here. Let's take a look at it further. Tony, I got some
Mm.
red arrows here. I don't think you should spend any more time on that property. So this is how I can analyze. I can analyze hundreds of properties probably within half an hour. Very quick.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's a benefit that people that come to me and work with me, that's one of the benefits that I can offer them.
That is cool. So I have
Yeah,
one more question for
sure.
you
Yeah.
just before we start to conclude here.
Okay.
So I know you've been thinking about writing this book for a long time, and I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of experts and professionals out there who
Yeah.
have done the same thing.
Sure.
So why did you wait so long to write a book?
You know, um, my priority was to get my real estate mastery group up and running.
Mm.
And I felt that by doing so, it would give me better content for my book.
Mm.
It's organizing my mind as to what I want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
and what subject matters I want to expand on, right? So I figured writing a book first and then doing my real estate mastery, to me, it was kind of like going backwards because I didn't have the format that I wanted yet. But now I do.
Ah,
Now that I've
okay.
got my real estate mastery uh, course up and running, now I can go back and say, okay, this is what I want in the book. I want this, 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 and this. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you, but that's how my mind works. It's a question of organizing what I want to include in my book that's valuable.
Cool. And
Yeah,
and you know what? You brought out a really good point, and it can work either way. So in your case, the point is that the process that you went
yeah,
through gave you a lot of clarity. So now you feel you can
sure,
write the book.
right,
So, doing the course first gave you clarity. For
right.
some people, the opposite is true. They can't
I
figure out how to do the course or where
right,
they want to go to next. So the
yes,
process of writing the book
right.
brings the clarity they need to take
I
the next step.
I
So
agree with you on that.
so the point is that it's not about which way you do it
Right,
first.
right,
The point is really getting clarity about who you are, how you help
for sure,
people,
for sure.
who you want to help, and how
Right,
you help them.
right,
And when you have those questions answered,
right,
whether
right.
you do a course first or the book first,
Sure, sure.
both of them are going to go a whole lot quicker.
Right, right. Well, for me, because I'm not sure if everyone that writes a book wants to be a public speaker or wants to be
Mhm.
a presenter. So for me, it was getting feedback from my group as well. What
Yes.
kind of questions are there? For instance, you're asking me questions now, right? Now I say, oh, geez, I should include this in my book, right? So I just wanted to have more. I should have more clarity because my book, up to this point, to be frank with you, has been about real estate investing. Now
Mm.
that you ask me about what if somebody just wants to buy a home for themselves? What if somebody has equity in the home, they want to take that money out and invest? What should they do, right? So now you just help me create a new chapter in my book.
Yay!
So that's what I mean by clarity. I just have to get to the point where I can include as much as possible, and then obviously volume one will go to volume two and volume three, and
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. But I just want to give as much value as possible in my first book, if that makes sense.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So, Tony, just before we close, how can people connect with you?
Well, I have a Facebook page. I also have email. I guess email would be the best. It's
Okay.
Real Estate Mastery Group at gmail.com. That's Real Estate Mastery Group at gmail.com. That would be the
Awesome.
best way. I have a seminar coming up on February the 16th as well. If people would like to come to that, I know that's a family day weekend. You
Here in
know,
Canada.
here in
Yeah.
Canada, yeah. And eventually I'm going to have some guest speaking podcasts like yourself, and maybe I'll do some Zoom calls myself and reach out to people as well around the world, you know.
Cool.
But that's in the future. But right now, I just want to focus on my book and focus on my seminars and getting the word out.
That's awesome. So if you've listened to this podcast today
Yeah.
and you have questions, you know what? Take Tony up on his offer.
Yeah.
Send him an email. I know Tony, this is not someone that, some of my guests I've just met for the first time coming on this podcast. But Tony, I know he's a wonderful, kind, caring man. If you have questions, email him, take him up on his offer, and he'll respond back and you can at least have a conversation about it.
Absolutely.
And, Tony loves to give back. So don't be afraid to ask questions, because questions is what leads you on your road to success. So this has been Kim Thompson-Pinder. I've been with Tony Ning on the Author to Authority podcast. It's been a thrill to have you, Tony. And for all our listeners, we will see you on the very next episode. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.